I'm so happy to be here today. David, throughout your career, you consistently broke new ground in social work advocacy. And in the words of fellow School for Social Work alum Bruce Thompson, you contributed tremendously to vision for the LGBTQ community. Soon after entering the Smith MSW program, you led a challenging but ultimately successful effort to include sexual orientation in the school's non-discrimination policy. As former SSW Dean Catherine Gable observed, your activism had an impact on the entire field, inspiring many other social work schools to change their non-discrimination policies as well. This was just the start. You launched the first gay and lesbian counseling program at the North Shore Mental Health Center. From there, you began working with the newly formed AIDS Action Committee of Massachusetts, and over the course of 8 years and multiple leadership positions, you helped grow the organization from 6 to 100 staff members. In founding Stonewall Communities, you significantly furthered the movement toward housing communities for LGBTQ elders. You continued to serve the community of social work educators throughout your career, sitting on the HIV/AIDS task force of the NASW, co-editing HIV and Social Work, a Practitioner's Guide with Bruce Thompson, and teaching a Smith course on LGBTQ issues. Looking back, you summed up your career as, I see somebody who's trying to do something and somebody else who has resources but doesn't know what to do with them, and I bring them together. In other words, you say, you are a professional yenta. Fellow alum and founder of the SSW LGB Alliance, Gary Raymond, agreed, observing that you envisioned possibilities and brought diverse groups of people together to create needed services, not only in your work with people affected by AIDS and the aging LGBT community, but with every community with which you have worked. We deeply admire your efforts to make the Smith School for Social Work and the wider world more caring and more just.
Thank you, Dean Yoshioka. I'm honored to accept the 2020 Day-Garrett Award from my alma mater. My social work career and some of my dearest lifelong friendships started at Smith. The broad approaches social work takes to improving the lives of those in need have allowed me to tackle difficult issues with multi-layered strategies. I think of my career as a good example of the differential use of self. Having grown up as a gay boy and having struggled to accept who I was with the assistance of a very unhelpful psychoanalyst, I decided that I wanted to become a clinical social worker so that I could actually help LGBTQ people to come to terms with who they were and achieve their full potential. As my clinical practice grew, I realized that so many of the issues we were dealing with were much deeper and broader than individuals' inner psychology, that so much of the prejudice and discrimination were given power in the policies, systems, and environments in which we grew up and lived. As the AIDS epidemic began, I saw gay men and those addicted to drugs were abandoned by their families, maltreated by healthcare systems. At first, we set up systems of care that did not exist, but quickly realized that the epidemic required that all existing systems needed to change to bring their resources and expertise to people living with HIV/AIDS. After 8 years of working in the epidemic, I realized that not all of my friends were going to die from HIV. I decided to focus on the question, what will our lives be as we age and grow old? Over the years, I started services, advocacy, and housing development for older adults. Once again, in addition to developing these initiatives, my work focused on existing elder service organizations and helping them learn how best to meet the needs of older LGBTQ adults. As the concept of intersectionality grew, it became clear that if we were going to improve the lives of the diversity of LGBTQ people, we needed to broaden our vision And we saw that so many of the barriers to care and resources were in systems and policies rooted in white supremacy, racism, misogyny, ageism, and homophobia. My work then focused on coalition building across and within communities in Boston to change policies and systems to decrease the inequities in health outcomes for low-income residents and people of color, knowing that LGBTQ people were parts of all those communities. And the current pandemic has only made these inequities more visible to those who have not been willing to see them previously. Towards the end of my professional career, it occurred to me that many of these realizations were things that had engaged my passion from an early age. I had attended a Quaker school rooted in social justice and nonviolence. In college, I studied the movement to abolish slavery. In a coalition with students of color and feminists, as you mentioned, my fellow students and I worked successfully to get the School for Social Work to add sexual orientation to the school's non-discrimination statement. And when I was asked to start an LGBT counseling program in the mental health center at which I worked after getting my MSW, I made sure that the organization's policies were aligned to support LGBTQ clients. And while my career has focused on these macro issues, in order to make meaningful societal change, I was always motivated by believing these changes would improve the everyday lives of people so that they could live their lives to the fullest. As E.E. Cummings wrote, to be nobody but yourself in a world which is doing its best night and day to make you everybody else means to fight the hardest battle which any human being can fight and never stop fighting. Thank you very much for this award.
Dominique, you've built a storied career as a social work educator and scholar. In the words of colleague Roberta Graziano, you hold yourself and your students to the highest ethical standards, and you personify the highest purpose of professional service. And it began quite simply with your passion to pass the values of social work to new generations. Early in your career, you worked with elderly and teenage populations before you found your calling as an educator. You began teaching at Hunter College and at NYU, and after completing a doctorate at CUNY, you became a full-time faculty member at Hunter College. You joined the Smith College School for Social Work faculty in 1997, teaching here until 2005, and serving as a thesis advisor for many years as well. You are well known for your expertise in group work, drawn to the challenge of allaying students' anxieties about this area of practice. Your books on group work, as well as social work research, have become key texts. Fellow Day-Garrett honoree Bruce Thompson recalled that the Social Work Students Research Handbook has become a user manual for his thesis advisees, and that your ability to clarify and simplify the steps in the research process enabled so many novice social work researchers to master their self-doubt and complete the thesis. After retiring from Hunter College in 2011, you took on a new challenge of chairing Simmons's online graduate program in research methods. You also founded Custom Elder Care, producing workbooks that help people customize care for their elders after creating something similar for your own mother's caretakers. Of course, thankfully, you're still educating, with 3 books planned in the next few years. As you say, when I write about something I love, like social work, I'm at the happiest. I see no reason to stop. And we are so very glad that you don't. Congratulations.
I don't know whether to laugh or cry. I'm so moved. Oh, Dean Yoshioka, thank you so much for those words and for the honor. And I would like to thank Don Fauché and the entire selection committee as well. And of course, I would like to thank Dr. Roberta Graziano for having nominated me for this really very lovely honor. And I would like to wish formally congratulations to my 2 fellow recipients, David and Bruce. I am honored to be in your company. And finally, I would like to congratulate the class of 2020. I am delighted to be here, and I am so pleased to accept this award. I remember my time at Smith with great fondness, making some good friends with students and faculty, and with not just a few chuckles as I recall the steep learning curve that is the School of Social Work in the summer. What I had done in 10 months normally needing to be done in just 10 weeks, a frightening proposition. And I also recall some early, very unexpected lessons, learning lessons at Smith. For example, my very first lesson was, if I didn't take dessert right away in the lunchroom, there was never any dessert left by the time I was ready for it. And then also in my time with Smith, I remember that I learned, I think a storm was brewing and the day had to be cut short, and I learned that if I needed to teach sampling methods in 15 minutes, I actually could. But on a serious note, I learned that the immersion that is Smith School of Social Work in the summer can breed tremendous exchanges of ideas and very valuably very fast track introduction to the value of difference, all so important to quality social work. I'd like to say a few words directly to the class of 2020, hoping that they will watch this, hoping. You enter the field in a moment of crisis like none I have ever seen in my life. And we are in very limited motion due to this pandemic, hence this virtual moment, all of us together. But I would like to project for you unlimited motion as you graduate from one of the top schools of social work in the country and move into such an important profession. You probably know that the Chinese symbol for crisis includes the symbol for danger and the symbol for opportunity. So as we look around, we do see danger in and from many quarters, but I would like to propose that if you look a little further or a little differently, we all really will find opportunity. Opportunity to be good, opportunity to do good, and opportunities to take part in making the world a better place. Your professional pedigree leaves absolutely no doubt that you can do that. And so I say to you, go out there, be good, do good. I know that you can, and I wish you all the very best in that journey. You could not have chosen a more rewarding profession. And thank you, Dean Yoshioka, again, for this wonderful honor. And I look forward to hearing the next recipient.
Bruce, throughout your career, you've struck an impressive balance of education and practice, which fellow Day-Garrett honoree David Ehrenstein described as a shining example of how effective and important social workers can be in changing the lives of our clients and communities. You began your career in healthcare, coordinating the development of the home care program of the new Massachusetts Department of Elder Affairs and the opening of Braintree Hospital before joining the faculty at Roger Williams College and starting your doctorate work at Smith. As a student, you had, in the words of former Dean Catherine Gable, a lasting effect in terms of change in the school and openness of the curriculum. You undertook dissertation research on the responses to the threat of AIDS among healthy gay men, and along with student Caitlin Ryan, you developed the first 2 courses addressing LGBT issues in social work curricula nationally. In your professional life, you continued to dedicate your work to the LGBT community, establishing a private psychotherapy practice, primarily working with gay men, and advising the Brown University Department of Community Health on issues related to AIDS. Since completing your doctorate, you have been enormously generous to the SSW community. You continued to teach and had a long tenure as a thesis advisor. In 1998, you and David Ehrenstein co-edited HIV and Social Work, a Practitioner's Guide, which included chapters by several Smith alum. You also serve on the editorial board of the Smith College Studies in Social Work. Most recently, you and fellow alum Stephen Cadwell created the Smith SSW Endowed Fund for the advancement of LGBTQ studies in clinical social work. You say that the School for Social Work has been an academic home for you like any other, and we are deeply appreciative that you have helped make it an exceptional academic home for so many others as well. Congratulations.
Thank you so much, Dean Yoshioka. It's been an honor or privilege to be a professional social worker all of my life. I don't think, looking back on my life, it could have been otherwise. But I wanted to highlight the honor to be affiliated with Smith School for Social Work in the various capacities I have been for the past 40 years. And to receive the support and encouragement that I've received from the deans during those years, starting with Catherine Gable, but also Ann Hartman, Carolyn Jacobs, and now Marianne Yoshioka, and also from the various sequence chairs over the years. It was an exciting time to be at Smith. When I was there as a doctoral student, and to kind of get on the wave of change that came with the work that David and Gary Raymond and others had done at the school to get the school to embrace the realities of LGBT lives. And I want to especially acknowledge, as the dean just did, my friend and colleague, Caitlin Ryan. I'm not sure that she and I knew when we were putting the LGBT courses together at Smith that they were some of the first courses that were being offered in schools of social work related to LGBT people nationally. So I also wanted to mention all of the many others who stepped up and out at Smith to provide camaraderie during those years when coming out professionally took courage and had consequences, which it still does for people who are doing that, stepping up. Of course, it was easier to do that within the holding environment of Smith and with good friends like David, Gary Raymond, Pat Giolino, Betty Morningstar, Wendy Rosen, the list could go on and on. It's always a risk of leaving someone out, and I don't mean to do that. But special recognition goes to, for me anyway, to Susan Patania for the tenacity that in returning to Smith for decades as an adjunct faculty member who taught the LGBT courses. She was a reliable face and force for the students and for the school for a very long time. And I also want to give a rest in peace to Dr. Steve Cadwell, social work extraordinaire. He took care of so many gay men and so many other people in Boston in his practice. So also special thank you just quickly to my dear friend, Dr. Barbara Nicholson, who encouraged me to apply to Smith for the doctoral program and supported me throughout the program, so through the doubts, the fits and starts of the dissertation. I wasn't sure I could do that dissertation, but Barbara helped me and we got through it. Social work has been a calling for so many of us over the years, to reach beyond our grasp, in the words of Browning, to contribute to progressive social movement, to uphold the values of human rights and equality. I have been so proud to be a social worker, but particularly proud to be a Smith social worker. I also want to extend my very best wishes to the graduating class of 2020 and to the incoming class of 2024. The dean has told us that enrollment is holding strong. I also want to encourage all of us who are in a certain age these days, certain age group, who are working on estate planning, to remember the financial impact of COVID on students and on the school during these hard times. I hope that no other recipient or recipients of the Day-Garrett Award have to do it virtually, because I can only imagine how much fun it would have been to have been with all of you, Dawn, the dean, my co-recipients, and to really have a celebration of this. And we'll have to do it individually, but I'll have all of you in mind as I do that later today. So thank you very much. I'm so honored.